Going?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Our workshop tonight is Optimal Choices for Optimal Results. And if you've been to some of the other workshops of Optimal Choices, I've at times broken down different components of this and spent the whole 30 minutes talking about that particular aspect. Tonight we're going to do the overview of several different things that you can do, not just to support your care in our office, but to support an overall more vibrant expression of health. So that's what the Optimal Choices are about. We have 30 minutes here. I'm going to make sure that you're out of here by 6:45. I have a lot of information to share. Some of the information will be new to you. Some of it's new and foreign. Some of it is just going to be review. There's some stuff here that there's nothing new in the world, but it could be a gentle reminder of things that you could be doing differently. So I would like for everybody just to listen with the ears of what's one thing I can take home tonight that I know I can do differently. Again, it might be something that you already know you could be doing. What's one thing I can take home tonight that I could do differently to improve my health? Okay, so those are the ears I'd like you to listen through. So a reference point or a frame of reference that I want to use is a continuum. So if we think of health as a continuum, okay, what's on each end of the continuum of health? Okay, Mark says, so this would be, I'll use this side, optimum health, the most vibrant expression of health that you can have. What's on the other end? What's this?
Bad.
You're like in the grave
Poor.
or close to it, right? So if we think of health as a continuum, every choice you make, every action, every non-action is moving you in one direction or other on this continuum. Okay, so all these things that we're going to talk about tonight are things that can move you in the up direction on the continuum if you choose to do them. So that's going to be our frame of reference. So let's see, here's a quote that I love, Teddy Roosevelt. I'm sure you've all heard this. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. All right? So a big part of what Dr. A and I are here to help you support and create, or help support you in creating, is change. It's all about change. So tonight, I want you to, again, listen for that one thing that you know you can change or do differently. So life is movement. I love this expression, and we can take this, we can take it, and think of it in a small way and just kind of build it out from there. So life is movement. If you think of living things, and we'll think of our human bodies as living things, everything about us is about movement. So we can look at ourselves on a cellular level. If you look at your cells under a microscope, are they still or are they moving? They're in constant motion. The internal workings of the cell are in motion, and the cell is constantly in motion in its environment. We can take that to the level of our organ systems. When our organ systems are functioning, they're moving. When your heart's working, it's moving. When your lungs are working, they're moving. Your intestines, your stomach. So we're designed for movement. While as a culture, we're very sedentary. So if we think about, if we're designed for movement, and movement is vibrancy, what are the effects of sedentariness? What might be some of the implications of being too sedentary? How might it impact our health?
Negative.
Right, so in what ways? So we can think of how does it affect your digestion, your elimination? Makes things sluggish, right? How about your cardiovascular system? The more sedentary we are, the weaker our cardiovascular system gets. Even things like memory, okay? We know that people that are more active have better memory, better retention. What else? What other systems benefit from movement? How about our
Bones are strengthened.
musculoskeletal system? Yes. Yes. So our muscles are designed for movement. If we move them, they're strengthened. If we don't, they become weaker. Our bones need movement in order for calcium to be absorbed. If we're not moving, our bones are not absorbing calcium. So movement strengthens our bones. So we're strengthened on all levels by movement. But again, we're a way sedentary society. Let's see if I can get this to click in. No. I'm going to try one more thing, and it may be backwards. There it is. So if we take this to the level of joints, we know that when joints aren't moving properly, when they're fixated, when they're subluxated, they start to degenerate or wear out too quickly. And that's what arthritis is. It's just a joint that's not moving properly because of some old injury, and it starts to wear out. So the more we move our joints, range of motion improves, joint hydration actually improves, which improves the health and the tone of the cartilage, okay? Muscle tone improves, and so it slows down that degenerative process. So it's just another way that movement shows up in the positive. So movement shows up in a couple of ways. One is just that, how active are you throughout the course of your day? And another aspect, separate aspect of movement is exercise, okay? And those are two things. I think that if we address the activity level, then the needing to designate exercise time becomes a little bit less of an issue. The more active we are in our lives, the less we have to carve out an hour a day to go and be active. So some tips that I would have, or hints that I would have about that, especially if you have a job or a lifestyle that requires that you be sedentary for periods of time, people who sit at a desk or sit behind a steering wheel and drive or that kind of thing. When you come home in the evening, at the end of your day, at the end of your work day, don't sit more or minimize that, okay? So for many of us, we sit during the day at work, and then we stop at our chiropractor's office and we sit in a workshop, and then we go home and we sit in front of the TV or we sit in front of the computer, and it's just too much. So there are lots of creative ways to not sit. So instead of coming home and sitting, you can do some exercises. You can take the dog for a walk instead of just opening the back door and letting the dog run. What are some other ways that you can increase your activity level or your movement in the course of your day? Some people wear a pedometer, tells how many steps. That really motivates some people. If you have a goal for this is how many steps I know I want to get today, apparently that really can make a difference. So there's an idea, wear a pedometer. If you do have a job that requires you to sit, does there anybody in here, you sit some during the day, but you're up and down. Does anybody have a job that requires a lot of sitting? Not so much. Do your kids sit for long periods of time?
Not really.
Okay, I'll just say this, for those times when that comes up, try not to sit more than 20 minutes at a time, 30 minutes max. If you're driving, like on a car trip, every hour you want to get out and move around. If you do have a seated job and you are for long periods of time sitting, set the alarm on your clock, get up and move around, drink lots of water, so you have to take plenty of bathroom breaks, make excuses, find excuses. If you have filing or copying, don't store those things up for the end of the day, get up and do them as you can. Anything to keep yourself moving. Okay? Really makes a difference in terms of the negative effects of sitting. So, talking about movement, Japanese proverb, we're fools whether we dance or not, so we might as well dance. I just had to throw that one in there because I like it. Oh, so then talking about dancing, there are lots of things that you can do that qualify as exercise that are fun. Dancing, for me it's hiking and kayaking. So in terms of really increasing your activity level, I just say find the things that you like. You don't have to go to the gym 3 times a week and pump weights to be exercising. Bike riding, we've got a beautiful beach here to walk on. So there's so many ways to increase your activity level just by being out doing things that you love doing. Just do more of them. So our next topic is missing. It's nutrition. Bear with me here. I don't know why this is coming in like it is. So nutrition. Those of you who have been to a workshop of mine before where we talk about nutrition, you're familiar with this. Eat close to the earth. That's the simplest way that I can say it. The closer you eat to the earth, the better you're eating. So what does that mean? Karen? Garden, where you can pick your plants right out of the yard. More than anything, eat foods in their natural state. So the peas are the things that you want to avoid. Packaged, prepared, processed. Not that you don't ever get to have them, but those should be the rare exception rather than the rule. So foods in their natural state would be fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, with some dairy, meat, seafood thrown in. But these other things should make up the bulk of your diet.
Minimizing processing.
when you prepare the food, the less processed, the better. So fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, raw, that's the best you can do. If you're going to need to cook them, lightly steamed or blanched, but minimal cooking. And then grains, cooked as they are, not with heavy, cream and cheese sauces on top of them. So that should be the staple in your diet. When you look at your palette on your plate, you want as many different colors on there as possible. So the more vibrantly colored fruits and vegetables you're taking in, the more nutrient dense your meal is going to be. So for a lot of people, when it comes to nutrition and thinking of what's one thing I can change with my nutrition, it's just taking in more raw fruits, raw vegetables, nuts and seeds. That's something that most of us can improve. And just to say this too, talking about that continuum, this continuum goes on for a lifetime, and it's ever changing. Our bodies are evolving, they're aging, our needs are changing. So what worked for us 10 years ago doesn't work for us anymore. So it's a constant reevaluation process of, okay, I've been on this path for a while. Is it still meeting my needs? So just to kind of toss that in there. I have, here we're talking about organic to the extent that your budget allows. I have copies here, which I'll send with you when we're done. Is everybody familiar with Environmental Working Group, EWG? It's a really good organization. They have a website, and they actually have these wallet cards of the Dirty Dozen. So these are the 12 most pesticide-riddled foods, or produce, vegetables and fruits. So the ones to avoid and the ones that have the least amount of chemicals and pesticides. So you can just put this in your wallet, so when you're grocery shopping, where you're able to buy organic, this tells you what's the most important use of those dollars, okay? So I'll send this home with you. There's also, I don't have this on the slide, but from that same website about your fish choices, your seafood choices, because there's all the news out there about mercury in our fish and different pollutants and what to eat. And this takes it down to, if you're going to eat canned tuna, albacore and chunk light, based on your weight, how often you can have each one, okay? So that you're not taking in too much mercury, because tuna is really good. It's really a good source of fatty acids, fish oils, but then you got that other consideration. So I'm going to send this home with you too. And it goes into all the fish, what are the better choices and the not so good choices. So that you'll leave with tonight. And then multivitamin, multimineral, and fish oils for most people. And I have to include that these days because there was a time when our food was much more nutrient dense than it is today. But if we look at studies comparing the nutrient richness of food today with just 30 years ago, it's declined by as much as 50%. So broccoli is not as nutritious as it was 30 years ago. You have to eat twice as much to get what you did then, right? So even if you're eating organic and you're taking in a lot of really good food, for most of us, it's probably still a good idea to have a multivitamin, multimineral. And then because of the whole fish thing, you want the fish oils, but sometimes the fish oil capsules are a better choice than actually eating the fish. Okay, so just a good general recommendation. So moving on to the next topic, this is Dr. Andrew Weil. Everybody knows Andrew Weil. Okay, he's a holistic medical doctor, Harvard graduate. He's a great resource also, his website. And he says, if I had to limit my advice on healthier living to just one tip, it would be to simply learn how to breathe correctly. So who would have ever thought that we don't know how to breathe? But we don't. That's the truth. So proper breathing comes from your diaphragm. Now, who here is familiar with that? Karen, you've probably heard me talk about it. So the diaphragm is the broad, flat muscle that separates the abdomen from the thorax, and its main job is to pull your lungs down, to open up the lungs so that you can take in oxygen. That's what it does. When you pull the diaphragm down, it expands the lungs. We have secondary muscles up here, secondary breathing muscles, the chest muscles that go like this. The job of those muscles is supposed to be that when you're in stress, like when you're in fight or flight, you need to get more oxygen than your diaphragm allows for. So then these muscles kick in to also pull your lungs up here. Well, most of us get out of the habit of breathing from here, and we only breathe from here. So that does a lot of things. One, it makes your body think that you're in stress. because those are the muscles that kick in when you're in stress, but it's also using these muscles around your neck and shoulders. So if you're breathing with these muscles, they're tensing and they're tightening in ways that they're not designed to do. So just breathing from your belly alleviates a lot. It alleviates your body going into stress mode. It alleviates tension from here. And it elicits something called the relaxation response in your body. That is a whole 30-minute talk in itself, but the relaxation response takes your body right away out of stress mode. It lowers your blood pressure. Okay, it calms you. It stops the circulation of the stress hormones, adrenaline and norepinephrine and those types of things. So the stress, the relaxation response can be elicited simply by breathing properly. Just by taking 5 minutes to breathe from your belly, the relaxation response is elicited. This is a really good way to wind down your day. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I just want to go through this for 1 minute. I want to teach you how to belly breathe or abdominal breathe. So I'm going to do it from the side just so you can see what I'm doing. But I want everybody to rest their hands on their belly. So the way that this works is when you take a breath in, as your diaphragm comes down, your belly should stick out like that. And then when you breathe out, the opposite happens. Your diaphragm comes up and your belly goes in like that. Okay? So let's all do it together. When you breathe in, your belly poops out. So go ahead, breathe in, push your belly out, and now breathe out and your belly comes in. Does that feel like a different way of breathing? Do it again. Breathe in, belly goes out. And breathe out, belly goes in. One more time. Breathe in. Belly out. I don't see how his belly's going out. I breathe out, your belly goes in. I'm sure they are, I just can't see it. So that's a great thing to practice. If you end your day by just, okay, let me breathe right. It's a great way to wind down the day. When you're on the adjusting table, it's a great thing to do while you're lying there. What?
Good way to start the day.
Good way to start the day, good point. If you find yourself getting stressed out or feeling tense, focus on your breathing. It really brings your energy down here instead of up here. I feel like I have one other thought. Oh, so you can use it as a tool right now. Use it when you think about it, think about it at certain times. Ideally, it's eventually going to become the way that you naturally breathe, and there will be no more chest breathing, stress breathing. So that would be the goal, just become a belly breather. Okay? Huge benefit there. No. Breath. Diaphragmatic breathing. We just did all that. This one I'm just going to touch on. Sunlight, I included this in because everybody knows what we get from sunlight, right? Vitamin D, because there's a precursor in your skin that when the sun hits it, it turns it and converts it to vitamin D. So there's more and more evidence lately that a lot of us are vitamin D deficient because we're now afraid of the sun because of skin cancer. So we either avoid the sun or we cover our skin up so that we don't get that conversion. So for most people, being out in the sun for 15 minutes a day without protection is fine. That's not going to hurt most people. Some people are overly sensitive or just or just concerned enough that they don't want to do that. So for those people, vitamin D supplementation is a good idea. Vitamin D3 is what you would want to take. The RDA for vitamin D is 400 international units. Okay. What is now known is that most of us probably could use between 3,000 and 5,000 a day. Okay, so that's what you get from sunlight or with the vitamin D3 supplement. But it's immune system support. Definitely your immune system suffers when you don't have enough vitamin D circulating in your body. But literally 15 minutes a day in the sun, as much of you exposed as you can, will give you your meet your vitamin D needs for the day. So sunlight stimulates the conversion of vitamin D, 15 minutes of exposure a day, or supplement with a vitamin D3. 5,000 IUs is what's generally suggested for adults. Okay, the next thing that we're going to touch on is hydration. This is a big one. So most of you is water, right? All of your cells are mostly water. Dehydration, not taking in enough water, can show up in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different systems. It can show up as headaches, low energy, fatigue, sluggish elimination, high blood pressure. It can be a factor in diabetes. And it's the simplest thing to do differently. So a lot of people, when they're thirsty, reach for something other than water, thinking it's meeting their water needs, and a lot of times it's not. So anything that's caffeinated is actually having the opposite effect. When you drink caffeine, you need to take in twice as much water to offset what the caffeine is causing your body to lose. So you really should think of water and herb teas as water, and anything else is food. So juice, tea, coffee, don't even think of that when you're thinking of your water intake. And if you're drinking sodas, I would just say try to stop, period. Okay? Water should be your main choice for fluid intake. So a couple of different tips. You know, everybody's heard the 8 glasses of water a day, and that's probably, as a general rule probably works for most people. So a couple of things that you can do, because for most of us, it's just remembering. It's just remembering to drink it or stopping and doing it. So a couple of little tricks. You can have a 32-ounce bottle, preferably not plastic, and just fill it up twice a day and make sure that you get through the whole thing. Okay? Make sure that you always have water with you. So if you're at the desk, have a cup of water there, or your 32-ounce bottle. If you're going to leave and go run errands, take water with you. If you always have it with you, then you're more likely to drink it than if you have to think to stop and pick up a bottle of water. Make yourself go to the refrigerator and get it. If it's right there at hand, you're much more likely to actually take it in.
So can you tell me what the issue is with the plastic? I hear hormone or estrogen or
With the water bottles?
with
Well,
the plastic water bottles.
I guess it's multi-layered, because there's that aspect of it, and then there's the carcinogenic aspect of plastic and what comes off of it, and then there are the environmental implications as well. So, you want more detail than that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we don't really know all of the answers, but it's just, to me, it's just one of those things that if there's a chance that I'm taking, something's getting leached from that plastic and I have an option of doing it differently, I'm going to choose to do it differently. I know when this first came up with Jana, she just kind of rolled her eyes like, oh, what can we do? Something's wrong with every choice we make, and sometimes it feels that way, but there are times when, the only thing to do in order to get water is to stop at the store and buy a plastic water bottle, and so be it. But as long as it's not your primary source of water, find some filtration system that can do that for you. Okay. So we've already covered all this. Dehydration can cause muscle aches, headaches, fatigue, indigestion, constipation, high blood pressure, diabetes. Arthritis is another one. Arthritis is where the joints, the cartilage in the joint becomes dehydrated. That becomes a factor in arthritis. Okay, so drinking water keeps all of your tissues hydrated. Okay, so rest is, I think, the last topic that we're going to cover. And we do a whole workshop on this, and again, I'm going to send a flyer home or a handout home if you want it. If you're a person who has issues with sleep, or if you know someone that you could share that with, just some different tips. For most people, 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what best supports us. When we're sleeping, what do our bodies get to do? Regenerate. Yes, heal. So because we're not doing all the other things that we do throughout the course of the day, our body gets to put energy toward healing, renewing, and regenerating. So getting a good night's sleep is important. A number of people think of themselves as night owls and think that the rule of, sleeping when the sun sleeps, think that doesn't apply, but it really does apply to everybody, even if we've gotten out of that rhythm. Because what happens is that when the sun starts to go down and the sky darkens, literally through your eyes, the nerve that attaches to the brain signals your brain that it's getting dark. So when it starts to get dark, your body releases melatonin, which helps you to sleep. So one thing that we do that creates problems there is we keep ourselves in the light way past when the sun has gone down. That's an issue with our modern times. So we're in households with lighting, sitting in front of TVs again, or in front of computers, or in front of video games that are not only light, but now they're stimulating images. So it keeps our brain neurons firing, and it keeps us awake. So some keys here, some tips here would be, for most people, between the hours of 9 and 6 are when our bodies naturally know to sleep. Okay, again, it's when the sun is down. If you'll take the last hour or two of your day, 2 is better, but an hour will work if that's all you can do. Turn off the TV, turn off the computer, get the kids away from the video games, and just make that quiet time. Turn down the lights, do something calming, read, take a bath, listen to some music. That's a really nice way to ease into sleep, and then as you get into bed you can do your breathing exercises. So calming activities in the last hour or two, reading. Reading is a really nice way to calm yourself, as long as it's not, like a sci-fi action thriller book. Something that's going to let your mind slow down. Okay? So sleep is really important, and those are some things that you can do to help yourself sleep better. So this is a kind of a recap of the things that we talked about: movement, nutrition, belly breathing, sunlight, hydration, and rest. So when we started, I said, I want you to listen with the ears of what's one thing I can take home? What's going to be my one takeaway? So now at the end of this workshop, I like to do proclamations. I like for everybody to say out loud, what is that one thing? Because if you say it out loud, it's more likely to actually settle in up here and take place. So I want everybody to say one thing that they know that they could do differently when they leave here, that they will do differently when they leave here.
Nutrition for me.
What does that look like?
I eat processed foods all the time. I mean, I've been a picky eater since I was a kid, so
Okay.
I'm just now learning how to eat vegetables
Eat
at
your
all.
vegetables.
At
Okay.
31, so
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, good.
definitely.
Good. Okay. I'll support you in that. Who else?
I'm getting better.
I think the breathing for me.
Good.
I didn't realize that it was that important, the way you breathe, how it
Right.
impacted
Most
your-
people don't. Okay, so you're going to start belly breathing.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll try to remember to remind you of that when you're here or ask you about it. Who else? What's
I think that's the difficult part, is reminding yourself
Mm-hmm.
to breathe, so how do you do that, how do you establish that habit? I mean,
Well-
and so in the morning, and then, like you were saying, when stressful time, or, I think it's quite a progression, you
Mhm.
become aware, and it takes
Yeah,
a lot of
I mean,
practice
and I
to-
was
to
there
do
because
that.
I've not always been a belly breather. So it was maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years ago that was brought to my attention, and it made a lot of
Takes
sense.
a while.
Yeah, but I think that it's, once you know something or once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So
Right.
it's there, and you'll be surprised at the different things that will trigger you to remember it. And the more you remember it, then eventually it becomes habit. So I do think that finding those specific times, when you wake up, when you go to bed, when you feel stressed, when you know you need to calm down a little bit, eventually you
So
relearn.
order proclamation?
Well, to try to remember more, those pegs throughout the day, and then the easy one is eat more fish.
Okay. That's a good
And
one.
in fact, I've been told, I haven't read the studies or whatever, that
Mhm.
with fresh fish,
Okay.
in the mercury, like the
Mhm.
higher mercury content fish, there's also a higher content of something, and I can't remember, like selenium or something, that actually prevents
That offsets?
the mercury from being absorbed into your system.
Wait, fresh fish being fresh as opposed to farmed, or fresh as opposed to processed?
Or
Like,
first and then what?
Wild versus farmed, or?
Um,
I'd like to
I
know more,
couldn't
because I'm
know.
not
I
familiar with
couldn't-
that,
I
so
couldn't-
I'll have to do some research.
Mhm.
We'll have to
Okay.
ask them.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about
All right,
that.
we have a good friend that markets fresh fish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd like to know more. So if you find out more, tell me, and I'll try to do some of my own research. Selenium, you think
I
it is?
can't.
Okay,
I mean,
something that offsets the.
Yeah, it seemed like
mercury.
another metal,
Interesting.
that's why I thought selenium. but-
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'd like to know more. All right, do you have a proclamation, Ms. Karen?
Rest,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
there's always something that needs to be done that hinders me from getting to bed on time, and, or just straightening up, or
Right.
walking behind people and
Mhm.
picking up and putting away, kind of.
So you can support each other in breathing and getting to bed on time.
Put your stuff away.
And how about you?
I think hydration would be the main thing right now,
Yeah.
but I could actually put all of those into
Sure.
to use immediately.
So take as many home as you can and will, but I do like coming up with one thing in particular that works. Okay, I'm gonna send some handouts around in just a minute. You all know that one of the things that we love to do is to take these workshops out in the community. So some of them are a good fit with different places of employment or civic groups or church groups. So if there's one that resonates with you and there's a place that you see a good fit, please let us know. I have a form here that applies specifically to a place of employment, but if you wanted to take this to your HR person and see if we could come there and present a workshop, we would like to. These are just some of the resources that I use. Breathing.com, Dr. Weil, Natural News, Mercola. This is a great book, 7 Pillars of Health. Are you all familiar with that? It's actually a great book. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
It's very biblically based, but it's just a wealth of information. And of course, ajchiropractors.com.
Now, do you have those listed on the sheet that you are going to give us?
Just turn that off, please. I don't, but I could print this and give it to you. I normally do, but I have